Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiral Out Podcast. I'm your host, Chris West. On today's episode, we have Ryan Besch, who did the Las Vegas poster for Puscifer's 2026 tour, the first one. So check him out, check the episode out, and check out rockabilia.com for all your official band merch needs. Use Spiral Out during checkout for 10% off your order. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiral Out Podcast. I'm your host, Chris West. On our show today, we have a very talented artist, Ryan Besch. Ryan is a very prominent poster artist, an artist in general. You do a lot of graphic design, stuff like that. Tell the audience a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, it's predominantly posters. It has been for a while, but I still do maybe like two or three, I don't know, like album packaging projects maybe a year. And then I did snowboards for Nitro Snowboards for 10 years. Worked for Dogfish, doing like beer packaging for their artist series 1 year too. I mean, I kind of do like handfuls, skate graphics, things like that, but mostly it's gig posters.
For our audience, if you're listening to this show,
75% of the time.
yeah, if you're listening to this show, then you definitely know about Puscifer, and you've probably seen one of the, I don't know, 5 or 6 posters that you did for Puscifer and Sasanta over the last few years. I myself own, I think, the Texas one poster that you did a couple years back, like a old-time magician-looking guy.
Yeah, that's actually. Did you ever see the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin?
Yeah.
That's the outfit that he wears when he's guessing people's weight at the carnival. That's his get up.
I was born a poor black child.
Yeah.
But you did a number of them for the 2022 era and 2024 for Santa and 2025 as well, and going to be for 2026. I thought I'd go through some questions and some of the art. They specifically used your Phoenix, Arizona poster for multiple things. Their album for Arizona, their live album for Prescott. They used your art, which is like a it style brain monster with their heads, their 3 heads slithering out of there.
Yeah, that was the first one I did for him, and the brief was just that, the theme of the tour was kind of like Men in Black or alien centric or something like that. And I didn't want to do a traditional like Gray's style alien. But I just watched The Thing, the John Carpenter movie. So there's that scene where like the body cavity opens up when the autopsy is being done, and the mouth bites the hands off, and then the creature starts mutating and it starts growing heads out of this like spider creature. So that's kind of what I went off with. And it's kind of that mixed with there are some posters of old kaiju graphics where they show like it's an internal diagram of organs and things inside of the monsters. So it's kind of a mix of those two ideas put together.
That's pretty cool. That's the Milton Berle scene, right? The diabetes guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just had like such a. That was really my first real exposure to that band. I'd had Tool records growing up, but I hadn't really gotten into Puscifer at all. But they all had such kind of like distinct looks that I knew I wanted to draw their heads because it was so like not stylized, but so much thought had been put into the presentation of the tour. So I wanted to get some of that in there.
But when did you first realize poster art could be like a career for you? Like, how did you get into it? What's a little bit of your history?
Well, let me see. I mean, growing up, I liked looking at all the like Rick Griffith and all the poster artists from San Francisco from the 60s. But then growing up in the 90s, I would see a lot of stuff by like Frank Kozik and Art Chantry and those poster artists. And they were also doing a lot of record packaging and things like that. And they were working for Sub Pop and a bunch of labels I liked. But I didn't really get into making posters. I mean, I would make flyers for my bands, like the hardcore bands I was in. But then, like around mid 2000s, I was doing a lot of merch designs for bands. and that's when the like, I don't even know if you call it third wave, maybe it's fourth wave, like poster boom kind of started to happen, but it was more with bands like the Kills and whoever, the National, Modest Mouse, like stuff like that, like more indie rock bands. And that's when I started doing posters, and I was with a studio called Hero Design Studio then in Buffalo. And I did posters for a lot of bands like that until maybe like 2010, and then that kind of slowed down, and that's when I started doing more stuff in like the skateboard world and snowboarding world and things outside of posters. And it wasn't until I think 2016 was the first time I did my first Phish poster.
Okay.
And then that kind of like reopened up the whole poster world to me again, because jam bands have always had like a very intense poster collecting culture built around them. I'm not a part of that scene really, like that's not my thing. But just by chance I had a mutual connection to Phish's art director, and we were talking because she's also from Buffalo and I'm friends with some of her sisters. And she just asked me if I wanted to do one. I ended up doing two that year, and it's kind of like once the other bands in that scene see you do work for Phish, who's like here, then all the other bands, you know, beneath
Sure.
them are like, oh, who's that new guy that just did some Phish posters? And then,
I
now
like
6 years
your.
later, I predominantly work for jam bands doing posters, and it's not really like what I thought I was
Not
going
your
to be doing,
thing.
but it's cool. No, but
Yeah.
they're great to work with, and sometimes honestly, when I work with bands that I do really like, that I've been a fan of for a long time, it's honestly harder because I kind of put a lot of pressure on myself to impress these people that I like so much. Whereas with the other ones, my main concern is pleasing the fans and the band, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
You can kind of remove yourself from caring about what they think, I guess.
Uh, no, the opposite actually. I
Oh,
think
fair.
it's like I how do I word it? Like I don't want anybody to go to like a Phish show and be bummed out because they don't like the poster. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I want them to go and see it and be stoked on it, or a Puscifer show, because then the band's happy, the fans are happy, I'll sell my copies, I'll be happy, and then I'll get hired to do more of them for them. But when I'm working with a band, like I did a Soundgarden poster, and in my mind, it's like, ugh, you know, these guys are gonna be looking at what I'm sending over to them to approve it, and that stresses me way out because I've loved Soundgarden since like 1990.
The Soundgarden poster is really good. It's kind of out of the Black Hole Sun music video, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
the lady with the very, I don't know, Stepford Wives style lady.
Yeah, because that wasn't for a show or anything. That was for 30th anniversary re-release of Super Unknown.
Hmm.
So they wanted it to be something related to that record, and I always liked that the video has like a very David Lynchian kind of
For sure.
fever dream suburban dystopian kind of feel to it, and I always liked it. So I just wanted to play around with that imagery. It kind of was in my wheelhouse anyway, you know.
I remember when I was a kid and I'd wake up in the morning to like go to school and I'd just put on MTV and it would play like every morning around like 7:30 in the morning.
Oh yeah,
It's
and
this like weird, like you said, fever dream, David Lynch, Black Hole Sun. Yeah. They don't make them like that anymore, I guess.
no, and like every night around midnight too,
Yeah.
because Beavis and Butthead would be done at midnight after like two rounds of reruns, and then usually that or Basket Case by Green Day are the ones I remember the most. Like always kicking off the first block of videos at midnight.
And Smells Like Teen Spirit, I saw a shit ton. Play the
Mm-hmm.
crap out of that. So you did your first Phish poster and it got you into the what you call what may be the third or fourth wave of poster.
Yeah, and it got me into illustration again because I used to draw a lot, and then when I was in college, I was a fine art major and I focused in screen printing. And after that, I predominantly did design work, but it's all collage based. It was a lot of found imagery that I would cut up and then Xerox and cut and paste together. Um, but the Phish aesthetic is more like a lot of the posters from that scene. It's more illustration based, so it's kind of a rough start because I hadn't drawn in so long. But now that's what I do all the time, so it's gotten better. But it took a while to get my hands working again.
So you said you did some stuff where you took things and kind of scan them together? Is it kind of like your Interpol poster?
Oh yeah, stuff like that. I mean, that's a newer one, but all the ones from the 2000s and a lot of the design work I did, I like if you were able to see over there in that direction. uh there's a cabinet that's just full of like maybe like 15 drawers, and each one is just full of things that I've torn out of magazines over the last 30 years, and I'll just dig through those. And then I have a Xerox machine also over to my right, where I'll just cut things up, Xerox them, kind of like rough them up on there, and then glue or tape them together, and then run it through a couple more times, and then bring it into Photoshop and kind of add color to it.
Uh, so when I look at your work, it has this very like engraved feeling sometimes, like heavy line work. How does one develop a style when they're drawing? You said you started in printmaking. How much of the actual like printing process do you take into account when you're making one of your designs?
Since everything I do is screen printed, I'm always thinking of color separations while I'm doing it, especially since a lot of bands will have restrictions on, the number of colors you can use because, um, yeah, so like, most bands will be like, hey, try and keep it between 4 and 6 colors. So then while I'm drawing whatever the illustration is going to be, because I still do everything traditionally, it's still like, it's still
Uh,
Bristol board with a brush and ink on it. Is
so
how I
that's the
do
one I
everything.
have.
Yeah, that's the one you have. Yeah, I pulled all the Puscifer originals out behind me in case you guys wanted to see them.
Nice. So that's the original drawing.
Yeah, so I'll do that, and while I'm doing that, which might take me like 2 or 3 days, in my head, I'm kind of color separating it because if I have like 4 colors, then I know if I use, this certain palette and I thin out, like, because you can modify ink so that they become transparent. Some kind naturally are on their own, like reds and yellows are generally, or magenta. It's usually pretty transparent already. But you can take a more opaque color and retardants to it to thin it out. So then you can overlay colors. And if you thin out your blue and then print it over the top of your yellow, you can get different shades of green out of it too.
Nice.
Illustrating the poster, I'm kind of thinking in my head how I'm going to color it. So then when I get into Photoshop, I can kind of bang through the color separations. So printmaking is constantly going on in my head while I'm drawing.
So you do everything by hand. When do you switch over to doing things digitally, or is it when the color process happens?
Yeah, I'll jump back and forth because I'm not great at drawing things in proportion at scale. Because like that drawing that I just showed you is about 15 inches by 19 inches. So I'll draw everything as a smaller thumbnail, maybe like size of a business card, maybe a little bit bigger than that. Just a very basic layout of it. I'll scan that in and then kind of move the pieces around until the composition is where I want it to be. And then behind where I'm sitting right now, I have a plotter, which is 24 inches wide, and I'll feed my bristle board through that, and I'll print my sketch out on that in cyan, like a
Okay.
5% cyan. And then I draw over the top of that, ink it. And once that's done, then I scan it back in again. And the reason I print the sketch out in cyan is because a scanner won't pick that up. So you don't have to erase your pencil lines. Because I have these pencils, they're called non photo blue pencils. So if I draw on those, after I ink it, I don't have to sit there with an eraser and trying to erase all my pencil lines to clean it up.
Nice.
I can just feed it through my scanner, and the scanner won't see that blue line and the cyan ink that's on the paper.
Tricks of the trade.
Yeah, I never thought of doing it until I was watching another podcast by two cartoonists that I like. And what I was doing before that was I would blow my sketch up, rearrange it like I wanted to, print it out on a sheet of paper, and then sit there with a light box and retrace it onto my bristle board. And then on
Ugh.
one of their episodes, they were like, "Yeah, you just print it out at 5% cyan, and it's just like a non-photo blue pencil." And I was like, "Jesus Christ, why did I never think about that? That would have saved so much time." And it does. I don't know if it's anything you'd be able to. I don't know if it's anything you'll be able to see on camera. Probably not, but you can see there's kind of like a blue halo underneath everything, and that's the pencil lines on this. Yeah, I usually put process photos in my Instagram posts because I'm a big process nerd and I like seeing how other people have done things.
Same. When I make these videos and whatever we're talking about, I try to find things from somebody's Instagram or whatever as they're making it. It always helps.
Yeah, I don't know. It's how you learn new things. I don't know.
So you said you had all your Puscifer stuff and Sasanta stuff behind you. Do you mind if we go through a few of them and just kind of see where your head was at where when you were making them and maybe some of the process of what you have behind you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the originals. I don't have the posters out. I could dig them out if you want me to.
Oh, it's okay. It's actually cooler that you have the originals.
And this
So yeah,
is
that was the
that's
it
the
one.
first one. Yep. So sometimes when I'm doing stuff like this, like here, I knew I wanted her hair was eventually going to be black, but that I wanted all these thin lines in there to be knocked out in white. So you could fill it in solid black and then go back in with like white gouache and draw all those lines in. But it's a lot easier since I know digitally I'm going to color separate it to just draw it like this, then
Hmm.
cut these out, block it out in black once I'm going digital, and then turn those lines into white lines instead digitally. So there's a lot of stuff like that. Or I didn't like the way the pupil was coming out down here, so I drew that on a separate sheet of paper and then scanned that in after the fact.
And this one doesn't have the 3D effect in the side of the alien yet.
Oh no, that's on a different piece of paper too. Yeah, I did that separately just in case I didn't like the way it looked. Then I would be able to have this, you know, the way it is, and I didn't have to be committed to that necessarily.
Do you remember the like reception it got? Do you remember like when it came out? Do you ever pay attention to that kind of stuff?
I do. I wish I didn't, but I do. I mean, this one though it was good, so that's good. It's when it's bad that you know I try
It
not
hurt.
to like let it bum me out, but it does. So I try and do better about not reading that stuff. My wife yells at me all the time not to, but I can't help it. I'm a masochist, I guess. I just, it is what it is.
I do the same thing. There's people that say good and bad things about this podcast. What can you do?
Yeah, I don't mind constructive criticism, but just
Sure.
like you suck doesn't help me at all, you know.
No, it doesn't. Um, what's the next one you got? Uh,
That would be it would be the Texas one.
so this one's based off the Jerk. Also, again, well, he's an alien now.
Yeah, and it's a mix of there's like some Twilight Zone references in the back, like the clock, the like black
Spiral.
hole or whatever that might be. Yeah, the floating door and eyeball and things like that. Um,
Is
and
it
then
right?
my son always wants to make sure I point this out. The mouths on the ends of the fingers were his idea. That wasn't mine. I stole it from him.
There is a like very classic, I don't know, like zine early comic book feel to your work. Um, like is that something that consciously happens, or like when you're making your designs?
Uh, I mean, yeah, it's just I've been into comic books since I was, like a little kid, probably like 3 or 4 when I got my first ones, and then superheroes didn't really do it for me. But right as I was getting out of comic books around the time I was like 12, I went to the local comic shop that I go to, and I was kind of talking to the owner about it. And he's like, "Well, if you don't like that stuff, we used to talk about movies and things too, and I liked a lot of the crime movies from the 70s. So he kind of turned me on to Stray Bullets and 8 Ball and Hate and Man, all the alternative comics of the
Sure.
90s. I mean, Stray Bullets would have been a little later on, but and those books are the ones where this all comes from.
The like noir kind of aesthetic.
No, a little bit, but I mean more like the old comics that were big in the 90s, like Dan Clowes and Charles Burns, Peter Bagg, Mike Allred, Evan Dorkin. Those are all my biggest influences, and I try and keep them all melded together, but sometimes one might peek out more than the others on certain posters. You know, it just happens, but you know, it's just all
In
your influences kind of mashed in there.
I mean, I dig it a lot. The one you were just holding up, the one from Texas, the version that I have, you can kind of see like a translucent blue thing going on in the mouth area where you can almost see like the teeth going up, but there's also lips in front of it. How did you do that with screen printing? Is that the blending of the colors that you're talking about, or?
Yeah, yeah. So you take the inks like that one. I don't know, the red might have already been transparent by itself, but you can add stuff called like base extender or alcohol to it, and it thins the ink out. So then when you overprint it over the top of the other ones, you can see through it, and you'll get a blending of whatever's beneath it and what's on top. So then you can make new colors out of it. So that teal color would have been printed first, and then the red was thinned out and printed over the top of it, and that's how you still see the teeth through the lips
Sure.
on the poster.
And then is black and white usually the last color that you do?
Uh, oh, I don't print them myself, not
I
anymore.
mean,
I
in
used to print
general.
all my own stuff. On that poster, I imagine it would have been the teal, then green, then red, then black would have been anything that's white on there is the paper itself showing through.
Gotcha. And do you have preferences on paper? Like, you like different paper stocks, foils as opposed to, you know, non-foil?
I prefer paper over foil, but foil has just become a it's just a standard thing now. I think my first foil print I ever did was in 2021, maybe for Sublime, and I didn't even know what they were talking about when they said there was going to be like a foil version too. But now it's so standard that almost every poster I do is definitely going to have a foil version too, which is something else you have to keep in mind while you're
Separating.
coloring it. Is that you can't always treat the foil like the white of the paper because foil isn't white. Foil's more of a mid-tone. It's more of like a 20% gray.
Hmm.
So if the white is the highlights in your illustration, foil's not going to react the same way. So you kind of have to think about that. Sometimes on foil, you have to add another screen on that does print white onto the foil to create highlights in places. I prefer French paper is the company that I use for most things. It's more expensive than normal paper, which sucks, but I just like the texture of it and the way it handles the ink. And a lot of it has little flecks of other things in the paper fibers that you can noticeably see. And
Yeah. Jermaine
they
Rogers, I
have
think, uses
this,
French a
what's
lot.
that?
I think Jermaine Rogers uses French a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do. It's not like a exclusive to me thing or anything, but it does increase the price of each poster by about $1 when you're printing them. So if you're doing a run of 500, that's a substantial difference just to spend on paper. But the manila yellow is like my go-to guy that I use for almost every poster because it has the look of faded newsprint, and
Hmm.
just with the style of artwork I do, it just kind of complements it. And then I don't have to try and recreate that look using a blend of yellow and some other ink color. The paper just does it on its own, and it already has these fibers and a tooth to it that.
'Cause I have the Phoenix, Arizona poster, and it is something I noticed right off the bat that the paper itself, like you said, has this almost old timey newspaper feel, but like thick. In fibers, you can see, like you said, noticeably the fibers in the paper.
Yeah, those two are actually done on. It's French, but it's cement green is the color that that's on, which is another one that's like one of my go-tos if I can't get the Manila yellow.
So you did those first two, and then in 2024, Sasanta started. Do you have any of those behind you?
I can't find the first one.
The
It's
blobby
in one of
one?
my yeah, it's in one of my flat file drawers, but I can't find the freaking drawing. I don't know what I did with it.
No worries. I'll pop it up as we're talking about it, but it has big blob vibes, old school blob movie.
It does. That was one, unfortunately, that didn't go over very well with most people. They called it the bubblegum poster, and a lot of fans
I'm
hated
laughing
it.
at you. I'm laughing with you, my friend.
It's cool. Like they can't all be home runs. I'm not sensitive about that. It surprised me a little bit because I'd already done multiple posters for Primus and Puscifer, and I did the packaging for that record. So I thought I was on the same wavelength as everybody, and I thought, oh, they'll dig this, blobbish thing with a dissolving set of skulls from each band inside of it, and I was wrong. They didn't. They didn't. I got made fun of a lot for that one. I like it. I think it's cool, but
I think it's cool too. And again, you can't. They all can't be home runs, I guess. But at the same time, I'm sure there's somebody out there that was delighted that was their poster in Salt Lake City.
yeah, sure. I mean, some people liked it. I'm just saying it wasn't like the other ones, and it's a bad gauge. But the other posters sold out the first day.
Yeah.
That one I still have probably like 20 of them, and it's taken a long time to get rid of most of the runs. So that's kind of like a quick indicator that, all right, after the show, they sold out the show, but then obviously nobody was so desperate for one that they tracked me down to pick one up.
Do
Yeah.
you? Some while looking at it right now, it's obviously a take on the classic '60s, the '70s, even '80s. They think they remade it the Blob. You said
Oh yeah.
that each individual band member is one of the skulls.
Well, since it was the three bands,
Oh, okay,
one
yeah,
of the skulls is like Maynard from the I forgot the character's name with the mullet and the mustache in the
gotcha. I see
Aviators.
that up there.
And then the one is kind of a heart octopus skull. That was my perfect circle reference. And then the other one is I forgot the name of Primus's little mascot, the
Yeah,
mosquito.
they're the mosquito guy. Yeah,
He's got a name. It's like Skeet or something like that.
yeah.
I forget what it is. But I always
Oh,
liked in that movie how you could see people dissolving inside of the blob. So I wanted to play around with that.
I dig it.
Everybody thinks if I hadn't made it pink, that would have made a huge difference. That people didn't like pink.
What would you have made it?
Green,
Purple?
maybe? I don't know. I don't know. I like the color pink. I think it's garish, and I like
Oh,
that
again,
about it.
it fits your aesthetic as well. Again, the old timey comics. Then you did the second time you did Sasanta in 2025. It
Hmm.
was like a three-headed monkey.
That one I do have. I found that. This one's pretty big, so I'm gonna have to move way back in order to fit it in there. It's like twice the size of a normal one.
Oh wow,
But that's that one. So again, if I know like up around here, it's gonna be all black. I don't bother filling it in because
it's just gonna
like
be black.
it's just gonna be black. So like, why sit there and do it when it's easier to do digitally?
And so on your poster compared to the one I'm seeing on your website, all the writing and the band name stuff, do you do that separately on on a different piece of paper and add it digitally later?
Yeah. Again, that's something that I wish I didn't do sometimes because I don't have like one original. I have this one and then probably two or three other pieces of bristleboard with other pieces on it.
Hmm.
So it's not like if you wanted to, I don't sell them, but if I did and you wanted an original from me, it's not like I have the poster as you see it. I have pieces of it scattered over things. And the reason for that is just because, from a color separating standpoint, it's easier to do it that way and then digitally put them together in Photoshop. And then, if I like the placement of it a little bit, like the word balloon with Primus in it, if I drew it on here and I didn't really like where it was, since I have it as a separate piece, I can just like nudge it over into a spot where I feel like it
Yeah.
fits better or something. It's all just for practical purposes to make the coloring stage go faster.
Was there anything about this specific poster, like what was the idea behind it? I'm kind of getting like a voodoo vibe.
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking when you're making it?
Um,
what were they telling you about the Santa in general as like, hey, we're going in this direction? I know it's the three bands, but did they give you any prompts?
Um, I think it was just the same as the year before. It was just that they wanted it to be more monster themed, and whatever the monster is has to have three heads because all three bands are on equal billing. Um, and they're all playing as one band, so they wanted it to be a three-headed monster. I guess I didn't really. I guess I didn't really stick to that because mine is just one monkey head spinning around, but it looks like three heads.
No, I
Um,
think it.
so I
I
guess I
think
kind of fudged it, but it worked.
no, it totally works. So when you're coming up with this monster, what was three? Well, technically it's a monkey spinning, but like, what was the spark? Like, did you have something already in mind when they asked you, or I'm very curious about this with artists of like, where's the moment where you're like, I know what I'm doing.
This one I don't remember. I watch a lot of horror movies, and my favorite genre of them, or one of them, is like 60s occult horror or like folk horror, maybe.
Sure.
So I was probably watching something that had some sort of monkey paw in it or something like that, and
Like
that
the
made me
original
think of
White
it.
Zombie movie or something like that.
Yeah, or like there's that movie with the oh, what's his name? Martin Sheen's in it. The
Hmm.
Believers, maybe. It's
Okay.
like about like a Santeria cult or something like. It's been a while since I watched it, but that might have been something that I'd seen recently. Just that kind of idea is what I wanted to play around with, I think. And I didn't. I knew I didn't really want to do like a traditional monster because that's not really my thing too much.
Plus maybe the blob didn't work out as well as you wanted wanted
It
it.
did not. It did not. This one went over better. People seem to dig this one more,
Nice.
which is cool.
Yeah. And then you have the Smile Puscifer Loves You poster.
Yes, I have that one too. That one is behind me.
So this was, if people don't know that are listening, yeah, that one.
Yep.
Not only did not only did the band do like one big huge 24 by 26 poster, each individual band did their own posters during the shows as well. So this was one for Omaha, but also in the same tour. So like you got to do
Yeah.
one and one small one.
Mhm.
Why did you go towards this fundamentalist Christian / hell?
Well, there were these little books called Chick Tracts.
Sure.
Um, and each one they were like these long, thin books, and they had cartoons in them, but they all had some sort of moral lesson in them. Kind of like a religious version of stories from EC Comics is how I think of them sometimes.
Okay.
Um, and I just kind of I don't know. I just kind of want to play around with that. I thought of a hand puppet and then of putting three heads on it. And originally, I was thinking of like an alien hand inside
I see the hand on the bottom now.
controlling the choir of the band. But then I was like, oh, but if you make like a devil symbol with your hand, that's also three. So I could do that in there, and then it's like the devil hand controlling the Puscifer
I
choir.
didn't even notice the hand until you said something.
Oh, really?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
No, I didn't. I've seen this poster quite a few times, and it wasn't until you said hand puppet where I was like, oh shit, there's a hand right there. Like just
Yeah,
completely.
without the words on it, it's probably easier to see it there.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, it is the devil horns, like this guy,
Yeah,
which I would feel awkward doing. So that has Billy D and Karina and Matt Mitchell in a luchador mask.
yeah.
So drawing their likeness, is that something you do often with bands? Doesn't seem like it.
No, I don't. And some bands specifically say don't or you can't or please don't.
Please don't.
But they've always been receptive to it when I've done it. And again, it's just because they like take such time crafting their looks and presentation for every tour that to me it just kind of lends itself to illustrating it more so than a band that just, like if it was Pavement, I wouldn't draw the guys in Pavement because you know,
Or
it's just
Jawbreaker,
Stephen
even.
Malkovich. Yeah,
Or
that I wouldn't do.
most of them. Even Dave Matthews Band, I don't think Dave wants people to. I don't think they draw Dave that much.
No, and I did one of the band Goose, um, who's like one of the, you know, bigger jam bands
Yeah,
out there right now. But I didn't draw them. I didn't draw them exactly. I drew them as Muppets.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I see it right now. Like some of them are blue. Very Jim Henson
Yeah,
esque look.
yeah. I was big on like Fraggle Rock and the Muppets and stuff like that as a kid. So, and I thought the dudes in the band just kind of looked like Muppets, so it made sense to draw them that way. But that's really the only two times I think I've done that as far as drawing the actual band members.
I really enjoy the two most recent Modest Mouse ones that you did. Just I guess from the difference from the Puscifer ones, these ones there's more purple and green that I liked.
Yeah.
It's a little more colorful than what I was used to seeing in the Puscifer stuff. The Puscifer ones are a little bit more muted and or pink.
Yeah, they're a weird band in the sense that I always thought the artwork and the stage shows, it's all very colorful and it's loud, but most of the people at the shows are all like black t-shirt
Yeah.
people, and they don't, I've submitted posters for them that had like an overabundance of pink or something, and the feedback would be like, you know, tone the pink. Like these people aren't going to want a pink poster hanging in their house, So I got to kind of chill out some of my normal color selections, because like I said, I don't want you guys showing up to the show and being like, ugh, I hate this. I want people to like it. So if that means having to tone down my natural inclinations to make things really garish, that's fine with me. That's fine, But that's why the modest mouse is like, make it as loud and as ugly as you want color combination wise. So I just kind of go with what I naturally like the look of, I guess.
Again, I really like the old timey comic feel. There's a classic. I don't know how to say it, but there's a classic feeling to the that you're doing, and that kind of style with the like intricate line work, and I don't know, especially like on the Modest Mouse one where the spaceship is upside down. The side of the guy's head is like all these really thin lines going down, leading up to the brain and the screws.
Mm-hmm.
It gives it this texture. Or again, in the Modest Mouse one with the Batman and Robin style characters, there's a shadowy creature behind them, and it seems like you did the shadow all in like really thin lines.
Yeah,
That must take
it's just cross
forever.
hatching.
Yeah,
What's that?
exactly. It seems like it would take forever.
It does. That's time consuming and it makes my hand hurt. But I like the way it looks. That goes back to, there was a comic book artist that did a lot of stuff for Mad Magazine and did some stuff in Playboy, Will Elder, and
Hmm.
that was what he was known for, was this really overworked chicken scratch kind of cross hatching. And then Robert Crumb used it for everything, and Dan Klaus did a lot of it in the early 90s and late 80s, and he was very influenced by Will Elder. So that look has just always been something I've liked, but there are definitely times where I start something and halfway through I'm like, what the hell did I do? Because now I'm into it, so I got to finish it. But my hand specifically is like, what the hell? Um, it's not as bad as stippling, but it can get
What
rough.
is still
Stippling is where you would take
smoking?
different size markers, yeah, and it's like pointillism. It's just dots and dots and dots and layers of dots to create shading. That one I always regret. It looks cool, but man, it kills my hand.
The other guy that seems to be getting a lot of has a big poster following is Billy Strings. I feel like your artistic direction lends well to his artistic like how he plays, what he sounds like. Do you find that there's a big difference between which bands like your stuff more or which bands fans like your stuff more?
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes it just takes time. You know what I mean? You have to kind of get to know every fan base. They're not the same. So,
Sure.
some that might go over with the Phish crowd or the Primus crowd doesn't fly with the Dave Matthews Band people. I've done two posters for him, and the first one went over really well, and the second one was a total bomb. People didn't like it at all. But again, that's okay. I've only done two posters for him, so I'm doing another one this summer, and now I think I at least know what they don't like. So on this one, I'll try and move it.
Which one did they like and which one didn't they like?
They liked the first one that I did that was for New Jersey, and it was a bunch of,
Like Mad Magazine looking one?
yeah, because I took a bunch of different roadside attractions that are in that area of New Jersey, and for whatever reason, there's a giant statue of Alfred E. Newman holding a golf club, so that's why he's on there. Um, and I just made it look like a family photo, but it's like this giant gorilla, a big purple brontosaurus, just all these random things that all just happen to be in that area of the state. I don't know why. But then for the second one that I think was South Carolina,
Yeah.
I did a lot of research on cryptid lore for the city, and that's pretty much what the I kind of explain it in the I try and explain that stuff in the post on Instagram and put like the references and where I pulled them from in the post. And I think I just went too esoteric with it. If you were from that area, those people were like, "Oh man, you got the lizard man and the guy whose car is covered in buttons," and just all these like little references I have in there. But as a whole, if you're just a Dave Matthews fan, you're like, "Why is a lizard stealing a boat made out of old scrap car parts, stealing instruments?" It didn't make sense. It was too specific to the city, and it was a miss. And that's on me.
It's funny when you said like, oh, one was a miss and one wasn't. I was like, well, it's got to be the family portrait one and then I look and no, that was the good one.
That
And
was a
again,
good one.
they're both good, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't have guessed.
it's just about what connects with people, Like there's one I did for Phish that's a submarine surrounded by a bunch of like creatures, and then there's a big jellyfish that's shocking it and electrocuting it.
Yeah, I see it.
And that was for a venue in Syracuse that's on a lake that has been it's the most polluted body of water in the U.S. for the last 100 years. So the joke that me and the art director came up with was like, what if it was like the pond next to the nuclear power plant, The Simpsons, and everything
Yeah.
inside of that lake is just mutated? And what if you went down there in a sub, and that's what you're surrounded by? So the people from Syracuse all thought the poster was funny because they're like, "Oh, I get it, because the lake is so polluted." But if you didn't know anything about what I just said, it's just a cool looking drawing of a submarine being shocked by a giant jellyfish. So it was broad enough that people not from that area just liked the look of it, but people from that area got the joke. The Dave Matthews Band one just didn't hit like that. You know what I mean?
It was too specific.
Too specific, right? So that was, like I said, a
What,
misstep on my part.
no, man. Again, I don't think there's any missteps when you're being creative. In my opinion, I'm sure people around you tell you the same thing. But I don't know, man. You're creating like that's a win in general. Like, you get to do this for your job. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah. I'm not complaining, but like I said, those people left the show unhappy, and I don't. That's not the goal.
fair enough. I guess that's a good attitude to have because you could be like, ah, fuck them.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I get that, but we're commercial artists. It's not fine art. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure,
I'm making it. I want it to be something I like, but it's also got to fulfill a commercial purpose too. The bands are making it because they want to sell them and they want people to be happy. So that should take precedence over what I think about it, I guess.
sure.
Um,
So I wanted to save this one for last. You're doing another Puscifer one. Puscifer's got a new tour coming.
mhm.
And their first show is in Las Vegas, which is where I live. And you did the poster for Las Vegas. I really enjoy it. Again, I'm very curious because nobody knows Like, I've seen Puscifer twice since this album, since they've done this album. They did some shows at the LA Stock Exchange. I got to go to that, and they have the comic book and stuff coming out. I'm very curious on what direction they're giving their poster artists this tour.
This time around, it's not as specific, but then kind of more. It's not as specific as like Aliens, Men in Black, or like
Monster.
Monsters. It's more about the tone of it, like a darker tone and less silly. I know mine is still sort of silly, but it's the way I approach things. Um, but for the color palettes, darker, more blacks. I use gold because there's a lot of black and gold being used in all the marketing for the new record. Fire they want in there some fire incorporated in some way, because I think the cover is like a field on fire with the house in it and maybe like a
Yeah.
woman standing in the field. So something with fire, but nothing with the house or a field on fire. Nothing relating to the cover directly. Um, and that was kind of it. And then they sent us press photos of the band and like the looks they have for the current tour. So like the red makeup and the more like,
Mohawky 80s synth vibe.
yeah, I was gonna say like not really goth, but yeah, like that kind of that kind of vibe. So that was really it. So like it wasn't specific as far as the subject matter, but more as the tone to keep it. So again, my original version of that had a ton of pink and teal in it, just like really loud colors. And ultimately, we kind of decided it didn't fit the vibe of the tour, especially as I won the teal. I lost the pink though. So we just swapped the pink out with a metallic gold instead, since gold and black are a prominent part of the color
Sure.
scheme. But for this one, as soon as they said fire, I thought of Rosemary's Baby, and I wanted to do a double baby. Um, but I wanted to use the skull because Maynard's been holding the skull in a lot of the press photos, and I just thought that would be fun. And then I kind of wanted to have this H.R. Geiger, like I wanted the baby's body to look like it was kind of leather or something like that, um,
See a ton of cross hatching going
a
on
ton of it. Yeah, so it's sort of like a devil baby xenomorph, I guess.
with hooves.
The hooves and the tail. And I was gonna do it inside like sort of like a diagram where you'd see in a woman's stomach, but then I wanted to tie it into Vegas somehow. And when my bands used to play in Vegas, we were like hardcore bands with no money, so in the mornings we would usually gorge ourselves on the like super cheap breakfast buffets everywhere, and then
Yeah.
that would kind of hold you over for the entire rest of the day. You could just kind of eat till you were sick. So my son was the one again who was my 12-year-old was the one that was like, why don't you just put it in like a fried egg then, or like it's
Okay.
like a sometimes, I mean, I've never had one, but it's possible that you get an egg from the store and it's been fertilized and they didn't
Yeah.
realize it. That kind
I've
of idea, except it's a devil baby inside of the egg.
I've been a chef for many years, and I've seen it a handful of times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where we're getting 5 boxes of 15 dozen eggs at a time. You know what I mean? So out of 5 times 15 dozen, every once in a while you'll get a scraggler egg that has some little weird veins or something in it, and you're like, well, this one they missed that one.
Right.
You just,
Right.
you just don't use it. But
So that was kind of the idea, and then I wanted the top to look like almost like an old menu sort of thing. It's hard to see in the image that I sent you, but when you see the posters in person, there's like a diamond pattern that's printed in yellow that's behind all the letters and all the teal, like an old menu, but it's very subtle.
I see it.
It's really only. Oh yeah, okay. And that like border I drew is just
I like
it
the
just made me
eyes
think
of
of a
the
menu.
letters.
I just wanted to make the letters a little weird, so I figured some eyeballs in there.
And like I said, it has that. If you know anything about Vegas, there is a big difference between downtown Vegas and the Strip. Strip is very modern, very, I don't know, glitz and glam. And downtown, though it is being spruced up, still tries to retain this like old timey Vegas feel. And there are these places that still have, you know, they want it that classic Vegas feel, you know.
Hmm.
And there's a place right on Sahara that has this exact, I think, or very close to font, like on their
Oh yeah,
signage. They're like, eat here at,
I got the border from I forgot what hotel it was. It was like I was looking at old matchbook art from the '60s for the different hotels along or casinos along the strip, and one of them had a border that was kind of close to that. So I took like pieces of that and then just kind of filled in the missing areas on my own.
it
But
reminds me
that's
of
where
the
I pulled that
Western.
from. That might be it. I don't remember which one it was. But that was kind of the idea behind that one, because yeah, like the bands I was in, we never had any money for like gambling, so we were always
Me
not
either,
on
man.
the strip. We were just out and about in Vegas, running around.
Again, it has a very downtown Vegasy feel, which I enjoy. Again, I will be at that show. I will be there early, and I will get one, and that'll be the third one of yours that I have. Again, I have the original Arizona, and then I just really liked the Texas one, so I ended up buying it. So thanks
No,
for
thank you,
making
man.
cool art, man. This
Thanks for having me on.
this is really an exciting one. I'm curious on what, because again, I mostly talk to poster artists on this podcast. There's some different things here and there. I've talked to musicians, I've talked to at least one member of Tool on this podcast, but it's mostly I talk to the guys doing the art because there's so many of you, and you guys are all doing something different that kind of feeds into this world, I guess, of Tool, Perfect Circle, Puscifer, and again other bands, Nine Inch Nails, Primus.
Hmm.
There's like a universe with all of this stuff in there, and you're a contributing artist to that, and I appreciate, again, different directions people take. Uh, I'm really looking forward to seeing this in person.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Any other bands coming up? Are you only doing one Pucifer show, or do you have multiple?
Not as of right now, but I don't know how long they're touring for. I mean, if they're going through a lot of 2026, maybe maybe I'll get offered another one later on. As far as other ones I'm working on, I'm doing more Billy Strings posters. Black Keys are going back out on tour again, so I'm doing two Black Keys posters. Breeders, Dave Matthews Band, Primus. Although I don't think I mean, it's a Primus tour, but it's got a different name because it's.
Yeah, he's doing kind of like his own Sasanta, where it's like all three of his bands.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but that tour, I don't know. I'd have to pull up my calendar to tell you, but
So
off the top of my head.
with doing so much of this stuff, what do you do to keep yourself creative, to keep yourself engaged, to come up with new ideas? Do you have any like rituals? Do you do anything regularly that keeps yourself inspired?
No, not really. I mean, I read a lot, as much as I can with three kids, you know. But reading, I watch movies constantly. That monitor back there is only really for playing movies while I'm sitting. It's just hooked up to a hard drive, so it's just while I'm drawing for 12 hours. I just have a constant loop of movies going on, but never anything new. It's all stuff that I've seen a million times before that I don't really have to lift my head up to
Sure.
watch. You know what I mean? Like I just hear it and I know what's going on. Yeah, film's a big one. And then, like I said, reading. I'll go to record stores. I still like crate digging or like comic shops and just digging through long boxes for like an hour, just stuff like that. If I'm really hung up on stuff, driving seems to help me. I'll just cruise around for an hour or so. And I don't know if that's because I have to put like all my attention on driving, so I stop overthinking what I'm thinking about, and then I just kind of let my mind wander, if that makes any
Sure.
sense. Uh, yeah, because sometimes that's the hardest part of doing this is it's ultimately problem solving, or coming up like with a creative solution to a problem. And sometimes the creative block can be the worst part, especially with the deadline looming, because it's not like the date of the show is going to change and the printer's holding a spot for you amongst all the other posters that need to be printed. So you can't be late.
Yeah.
And that's the pressure that gets me more than the actual execution of the artwork itself, is just sometimes not being able to come up with an idea can drive you nuts.
So driving, I'm going to use that. 'Cause I'm writing a script right now, and I keep running into these little. I've written scripts in the past, and I'm a filmmaker by trade, but I'm gonna try the driving one next. I think. I think I'm gonna take a road trip and bring a little voice recorder instead, and just blab. That's a
Yeah, I mean,
idea.
or even if it's not driving, it's just I find when I start doing something other than thinking about it, something that really occupies most of my computing power, then that's when the breakthrough comes, because I don't want to die in my car and I don't want to kill anybody in my car. So
Sure.
if my attention's directed towards that, then my brain kind of loosens up a little bit and things come to me. Or cooking. That's another
Yeah.
one.
I got a couple of last questions, and I won't keep you too much longer. What's something? that maybe fans or poster collectors don't quite understand about making the art, or you wish they might know?
Even if it's not your best poster, it's something that's taken you 80 hours to complete, and then people just kind of dump on it.
Sure.
And it's like everyone's entitled to their opinion, and it's fine. And I'm not so delicate that I can't take criticism. But I don't know. Even if a band I like puts out a record I don't like, I don't see any benefit in just like I would never go out of my way to be make sure they heard that I think it's shit.
No, I
And
wanted.
I don't understand that way of thinking. Like I don't go out of my way to make anybody feel bad. But a lot of people do, and that's weird to me.
I completely resonate with that. Again, I am a big Puscifer fan. I'm a big A Perfect Circle fan, and I'm also a big Tool fan. But there are a lot of Tool fans that just loathe Puscifer stuff, and they want everybody to know it. You can't post something or talk about Puscifer around these people without them being like, "It's the worst thing. What is Maynard doing?" Yada 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 yada. And again, it's the same. I have the same thought where it's like, I get it. You don't like them. Do something else.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be over here enjoying the thing that I like, as opposed to like you said, you have to go out of your way to say something negative about something. I don't. Why don't you try spending 80 hours making a poster? Like,
Yeah, and like I said, everyone's entitled not to like it. I don't have a problem with that. I just you said you're a chef, so
yeah,
like if I was in your restaurant and I ate something I didn't like, I would not march back to the kitchen to let you know, oh that that sucked. Like
lots of
why?
people do.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because that's not even constructive. It's more constructive to be like, hey, that wasn't my favorite, but I think it's because it's a little heavy on this. Take that for what you will. You're
Sure.
making it. It's your thing. Just to me, I think that maybe that was a little overpowering. If someone said that about one of my posters, was just like, hey, I think this part is a miss, that I can be like, okay, that's something to keep in mind for next time. But this is shit. Gives me
No, no, nothing to work with.
what do I do with that? Okay, all right,
You're like, all right, thanks, man.
yeah, you know.
Is there a band that you haven't worked with that you would like to work with, or
I mean, there's a lot of them. Unfortunately, a lot of the bands that I like a lot aren't poster bands. So
you say you were into the
they either
hardcore scene, right?
no, that's where I came from, and I mean, I wouldn't say I'm part of the hardcore scene. I still listen to hardcore records, but they're all my records from like 20 years ago. I'm very not up to speed on current
Yeah, me neither.
hardcore bands.
I used to be in hardcore bands and stuff in high school and whatnot. And
Yeah, so I mean, the majority of what I listen to are bands like stuff that I listened to in the '90s when I was growing up. So a lot of like Dinosaur Jr. and Portishead and the Lemonheads and Pixies, Breeders, Soundgarden, stuff like that. Um,
I love Portishead. I listen to it
and in the
regularly.
'90s, all those bands did posters. And then now, not so much. Like some bands are trying to start, like Dinosaur Jr. is trying to start doing posters again and stuff. But it's just not totally there. It's not like these bands, or like I said, like the bands like Phish that have kind of a built-in poster culture around them. So I don't do a lot of work for those bands just because they don't really do posters. But the Breeders have started again, so I was really excited. I just got a Breeders show for sometime in August, so that'll be cool because I love everything Kim Deal does. And that's a personal one. That's not going to be like some massive hit. It's just a for me poster. Um,
But if there was
Trying to think what
one
else
band, alive or dead or playing or not playing,
that I want to do a poster for.
is there one artist? Well, you did one for Soundgarden.
I did. I would want to do one for the Lemonheads because they're one of my favorite bands, or the Afghan Wigs. Maybe one of those two. I don't know because I do love Portishead's one of my favorite bands, but my style makes no sense at all with Portishead. I wouldn't do that to him. It
You
wouldn't make
couldn't
any
do like
sense.
a smoky, like subtle, sultry. I don't
Mm.
know. I feel like there would be a needle involved for some reason.
Yeah, maybe.
Heroin for somebody comes up to me all the time when I think of Portishead. But nonetheless,
I feel
uh,
like I'd somehow put something silly in there, and they wouldn't like it. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say one of those three bands. As far as like, I want to work for the Grateful Dead because I've worked with
Goose
so
and
many of the
Phish.
bands from that scene, but not the
Top.
Godfathers. Um, it's escaped me. I've tried working. I submitted concepts for Dead and Co. a few times, and they've just not gone with any of them. And I'm working on a Grateful Dead one now, and like sooner or later, I'm going to crack the code on a Grateful Dead poster, just so that I can say like, if I'm going to be working in this scene of bands, I want
You got to do the best.
a
You got to
Dead
do.
poster.
Yeah. Did you put the bear in it?
No, I didn't. I didn't put the bear in any of them.
That's the code, man.
That's probably it. I don't know.
You got to put that bear in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it.
Uh,
I'm gonna figure it out.
last question. What's the best advice somebody's given you, and what advice would you give to other creatives out there who want to, you know, go in the direction of creativity in general?
The advice that I like that I always tell my kids, it's cliche, but my dad was big on put yourself in the other person's shoes, and I stick with that one a lot. I try not to get mad when I'm driving, when somebody does something bad to me. Like, I try and put myself where they are and not let it stress me out too much, or take it easy. It has nothing to do with being creative though, but that's still one that I tell my kids a lot because my son can hold a grudge. He can get pretty mad at people and really hold on to it for a long time. And it's like, man, you don't know what that person's day was like that day. So just, let it go. You'll feel better.
What about the advice that you would give to other artists or somebody who's wants to be creative?
I don't know. When it comes to that stuff, I do get a lot of questions from younger people trying to get into posters, and they'll I don't mind giving people. I mean, I don't wouldn't come to me for advice, but if you're gonna ask, I'll do my best. But some will just write and be like, not how do I do what you do, but they'll just say like, send me the contact for Phish. I want to work for him. And it's like, well, that's not how that works. Um, it's taken a long time to get to the point where I am working for these bands. And it's not because I just said, hey, give me the contact for you. Put the time into it. And I think coming from a punk and hardcore background, I'm just always been big, whether it's with artwork or my bands. Just if you want to do something, just start doing it yourself and don't wait around for someone to give you permission to do it or try like getting, like I said, just emailing someone and being like, hey, put me in contact with the biggest touring band there is right now. That's not really how it goes. If you want to start doing something, just start doing it. Yeah.
You
Work
have to
at it.
you have to have a portfolio.
Yeah. So just start working. Like if you're in bands, start doing your own flyers, your own records, other bands you tour with, start working with them or whoever, and yeah, just start making stuff happen. But don't sit around waiting for it to happen. I found that with bands growing up, they're you know all of us start playing music at the same time, and they're the ones that are on tour by the time you're 20 and putting out records, and then they're the ones still just sitting in their basement waiting for someone to come down the road and hear your band playing from the basement and offer you
The
a record
contract.
deal. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I still have friends like that. They're like, man, someday someone's going to hear this. We're going to be huge. It's like, not
You're
if you don't
40,
do
bro.
anything with it. Yeah, well, not if you don't do anything with it either. Like if you don't even try and book shows at venues around town, how's that going to happen? You gotta
You got to
you
put
gotta put
yourself out
yourself
there.
out there. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's great advice. Be
And
empathetic.
make the stuff that you want to do, which is one that took me a little while uh, to kind of figure out too. But if there's like different types of work you don't like when it came to design work, there were things that I didn't like doing and things I did. And after a while, I figured out stop putting out the stuff that is not what you want to be doing because you're just going to keep getting more jobs that are in that vein. And if that's not what you like doing, put out the stuff that is in the vein that you do want to do. And then more people will see that, and then that's what you'll start getting hired for, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, and I think maybe something that you do that I don't know you're aware of, but you do have a very specific style. You talked about this without talking about it throughout this episode, but like you to go in a direction that you want to go in. Like again, you submitted posters in the aesthetic that you liked, and maybe sometimes you have to change that a little bit. Maybe there's too much pink and stuff, but you know, you it seemed to attack things in a way that speaks to you creatively and it shows in your work.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I don't see that personally. I only see my influences when I look at my stuff, but I think that's common for
Any
artists
artist?
though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And it's something that I'll do something and I'm like, did it come through too much? Does this look too much like so and so and not enough like me or something like that, you know? And I never think anybody else thinks like that until I talk to them. And they'll say the same thing. Brian Ewing was a friend of mine. He passed away, but
He was a good friend of mine as well. I like that guy.
yeah, Brian was awesome. And I just thought Brian's style looked distinctively like Brian. You know, I could tell right away. And then I was griping about this on the phone with him the one day, and he's like, dude, my stuff is just, you know, a mix of whoever and Tim Bradstreet. And I never ever thought of Tim Bradstreet ever when I was looking at Brian's stuff. But as soon as he said it, I was like, oh yeah, okay. It's all over the place, but I don't see that when I look at it. I only see Brian. So maybe when I look at
Yeah.
my stuff, I only see the influences, and maybe other people don't. But you know,
Brian
it's
Ewing was
hard to say.
yeah. I again, for me telling you, I see a specific style in your work, and you know what I mean. It comes through, and I really enjoy it. Again, it has, and I could be wrong, but what I feel again is this like again old timey comic booky, almost noir, yada yada yada. We've talked about it the whole episode.
Yeah,
So good on Brian Ewing. He was actually one of the first people on this podcast before he died.
was he?
Yeah.
Brian was the first, because I mean, Brian was doing stuff back when Chantry and Kozik were doing a lot of work. You know, he was kind of before, he was kind of like the generation before the one I got into in like the mid 2000s, even though he was still doing a lot of posters then too. And he was the first guy from that scene that kind of reached out to me on his own just to say hello, you know, and then we just started, you know, just started bullshitting online about posters or whatever, and then eventually exchange numbers. And he was just a dude I didn't talk to him on the phone too many times, but we would text almost every week. Just
Yeah.
not even about posters sometimes, but you know, because sometimes we'd be working for the same band and it'd be like, oh hey, what are you doing for this one, or did so and so contact you? But most of the time it was just like dumb stuff, joking around with each other. But he was an awesome dude and someone that I really valued their opinion when I would need to bounce something off of him, especially when it came to doing this kind of stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
because he did
he's a good dude.
like the first run of Puscifer alien stuff. I got a
Mm-hmm.
couple of his. I got to talk to him around that time again, like months before he passed, and I had just started this podcast sometime in 2022, and he was big on like you should keep going in this direction. Not a lot of people are doing this. Not a lot of people are talking to the artists. Yada yada yada. But keep going. And again, would talk on the phone a couple of times, and again, like you said, really nice guy, respectable, and just genuinely nice.
Mm-hmm. That last Puscifer one that he did, I think it was his last one.
Yeah,
It was like Maynard, but then it was a cutaway, and you could see like inside his head, I think,
yeah.
and it was kind of like a
It's pink. It's kind of like your style a little.
yeah, yeah, and had real drippy letters and stuff. It was an awesome poster. Yeah,
I have
just
it.
an awesome dude.
I
I
have it
miss
on
him.
my wall.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I have that one
Yeah,
and the alien Pope one he did,
yeah.
and then I got a couple of like he did this really cool thing where he would when he sent you something, he would print out some of his line drawings on the back of receipts. So all of a sudden, you would open the receipt and it would be taped to the poster tube. So if you didn't notice, you would just throw away the poster tube. But if you actually took the time to take it out of the plastic and open it up, there would be a drawing of part of the poster on the back of the receipt. And I have those. I have like 3 or 4 of those on my walls too. I mean, I really, really like that guy. I know we're getting a little sidetracked, but he was
No, no,
big in
no.
this community, and it's. I thought about him earlier when we were talking of whether or not you were friends with him, and I'm glad we brought it up because you seem really nice, and he was really nice, and I could see the vein, I guess, going through.
I feel really bad. He he. Okay, do you remember he had a little character, the Ghost Boner?
Yeah, I got stickers
Okay,
everywhere.
so I don't know how many other people. I know it was at least like 10 other people. I want to say, like when he was getting the toys put out, he contacted me and a bunch of other poster artists and had us draw like our versions of the Ghost Boner. And then I think the idea eventually was to make shirts out of each of them or something like that, maybe for different drops of the character. So I did the Ghost Boner drawing for him and sent the color separations off. And then he wanted the original artwork. So I kept telling it, he's like, oh, I'll send you money for it. And I'm like, nah, dude, just I'll send it to you, whatever. That was probably 2021, maybe 2022. And then I just wouldn't send it to him. So then every couple weeks he'd be like, what the fuck? Why isn't it in the mail? Blah, blah, blah. And then he even made a video, a tutorial of showing me how to package up the original drawing to mail it to him. So then I filmed a video of me packing up the original drawing, but then I still didn't send it to him. And then occasionally I would send a picture of him. I'd send a video of me walking into the post office with it in my hand, and then I would just turn around and walk back out the door and get my car and throw it in the back seat. And I did that like 3 times, and then I never sent it to him, and I didn't know he was sick. So I still have the freaking drawing. I never sent it to him, and now I'm like, what an asshole, you know?
And I
Not
think he
him,
would
me.
enjoy that.
I think he thought it was funny, but I think it also frustrated him after a certain point. That he's like, just send the goddamn drawing.
Would have liked to seen like all the different artists do that.
Yeah, I don't know if he made any of the shirts or anything. I don't remember seeing any of them, but um, I don't know.
Yeah,
Probably one of those things. I've got a million projects that I start and are in a
sure.
constant state of being done.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
again, a legend in there, and you're carving your pathway through this, and I think our look, you're making money. You're more than surviving. I hope you get the Grateful Dead poster soon. Again,
It'll
you're
happen.
carving your space on the mountain, right?
Even if it's a little space. I just, I hope somebody, I don't know, if somebody sees something I do and it inspires them to get into one of the movies I'm referencing or one of the books I like or to start making their own stuff, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, do me a favor and tell people where they can find you, where they can find all your art. We didn't really get into it, but I was curious on where your cinema came from. I think I kind of get it now, is because you watch a lot of movies and there are the references and posters and
Pretty much. That actual, I mean, those two words came from a band I was in at the time that was the song title. And I just thought it sounded cool. In hindsight, it's a terrible name because if you Google your cinema, it gives you listings of all the theaters in your area. It's very hard to look for me.
what are you
But
gonna do?
what are you gonna do? I thought about changing it a long time ago, and I just never did. So it just is what it is. The website, like my website, is yourcinema.design, but I haven't updated it since I think like 2017. Instagram, which is just your cinema, is where I post all my current work. I'm not very good about it. I have stuff from last year I haven't posted yet, but it's just not my thing. If I sit down to work, I'm working on work. Creating content is not something I make a
Yeah,
priority, even though I should, because it's how I get jobs.
money.
But yes, it's just if I only got a 3 hour window, I'm not going to sit there just making JPEGs to post. I'm going to work on one of my projects that needs to get done. So it's something I need to get better about.
So yourcinema.design, and then your Instagram at your cinema. Again, if you're going to the Vegas show, or you already have been there, because this will come out the day after.
Yes.
I
Hope the
hope you
show was
go.
good. I might actually get to see them. They're playing not in Buffalo, but Niagara Falls, which is only like 35 minutes from here. So
You should.
if I can swing it, I think it's in July. I'm going to try and go because I
Are
haven't
you
gotten
gonna
to, I haven't gotten to see him.
Are you gonna do any variants for this one? I'm sure there will be a foil at the show, and you'll
Yeah.
release one and whatnot. I think they may even sign a couple. I'm not sure how it works this tour, but
Yeah, I don't know how they handle theirs. There is a foil variant. And then I'll have, what do I have? I think I'll have 20 copies of the foil and maybe 50 of the regular edition ones that I'll put up for sale probably, if not the Saturday after the show, the Monday after.
nice.
I've never done a poster drop on a Saturday. I don't really know how well they go over. It seems like it'd be easier than trying to stop what you're doing in the middle of a workday to order a poster, but at the same time, I figure people got stuff going on Saturdays, so I don't know. We'll see.
Keep an eye out for that and all the stuff, Ryan, that you're doing. If you're listening, follow him, subscribe to his Instagram, and buy his stuff. He's a good artist.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
If you go to my Instagram and you click on the link up in the bio, my mailing list is there. That is the most reliable way to see when I have new posters coming out because I'll always send out an email 2 or 3 days or maybe a week before I'm releasing a poster. I know sometimes I put posters up and people will write and be like, I just saw the post and the poster's already sold out. And it's like, because I posted that 8 days ago and now you're just seeing it. So that kind of sucks. I don't chase posters, but I am big on records and books, like I said. So there's a lot of, like, Charles Burns, one of the cartoonist I really like. He has released a few very, very limited edition books, and I've missed every one because I found out, even 2 days later, and they're gone. So, um, yeah, if you're at all interested in my posters, the mailing list is the surefire way to find out about them.
Have you ever done any remarks, like where you draw on the poster afterwards?
No, that was actually something Brian was trying to get me into because he was starting to do that, and then Jason Edmonston, who's like a good friend of Brian's, was doing the same thing on some of his. He does a lot more like film prints for Mondo, but he was doing remarks on his. I I started doing some with that one poster, the one with the kind of magician on it
Yeah.
that I had. The printer had done a few on a white paper stock and just sent them to me. They were like test prints,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't sell them as part of the. I couldn't sell them as part of the run, but I still have them. So I did start reworking some of those, and I just never finished them. I actually started doing like ink washes over the top of the flat colors that are there to kind of
Mm-hmm.
make them more three-dimensional and rendered out. I don't know if people would consider that a remark.
I would be interested to see it.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I don't know what people usually do. Do they just like kind of draw over the top of them?
But yeah, it depends. Some paint, some draw. Everybody has like their own little style. It increases the value. It makes it a little more like they're getting a piece of your art as opposed to like a print of your art. You know what I mean? It's a
Hmm.
little more, it feels a little more high end, I guess you could say. Sometimes people go crazy, man. Sometimes they're customizable. I've seen people get tool posters, and the artist that did the original poster, they wanted Philadelphia Eagles stuff all over it, and they will pay for that. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So they almost do them as like commissions for people sometimes.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But sometimes people just do little things here and there, and it's always cool. Again, if you when you get your Vegas ones, if you're interested in trying some things, I would love to be the guinea pig on that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting idea. Yeah, like I said, I was gonna play around with those other ones because I have like five of them, I think, and I can't, I can't sell them as part of the edition, but I could like paint over the top of them and then sell them as one-offs or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Again, I think Brian used to do weird stuff like that, double prints, and actually, I think I put it in a different room. I put it in my living room. His poster, he had a Deftones poster that used to sit right here, and on one side was the actual poster, and the other side was like test prints and stuff of the same poster, and like he did some stuff over it. But
Oh, cool.
yeah. Anyways, go to his website. Go to Ryan's website. Follow him. Buy his stuff. Look out for the new Puscifer poster. And again, I appreciate you being on the show.
No, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no,
This is a lot of fun.
and thank you everyone for listening. I'm just gonna end. Spiral Out Podcast is hosted by, created by, mixed by, edited by me, Chris West. Make sure you go to rockabilia.com for all your official band merch. Use the code SPIRALOUT to get 10% off your order. And go to spiraloutpodcast.com for all your somewhat recent Tool Spiral Outy news and other bands and such art things.